thank you for joining the live stream right now. This is going to be an awesome one. We have a bunch of exciting guests here today. We have Pete Brown and Chris Lewis with Microsoft, and we have Matthias, who is with PreSonus Studio One, the legendary digital audio workstream app that musicians use to record some albums. Hey, I don't want to take too much away. Matthias, thank you for joining. Why don't we do a quick round of introductions? Matthias, please take it away.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Matthias. I'm VP of Software Engineering for Fender. As you know or might not know, Fender has acquired PreSonus in 21. Yeah, so I'm now responsible for a team of about 30 very talented engineers developing software for the Fender and the PreSonus brand. And the flagship application, obviously, is PreSonus Studio One.
Amazing. And before we get to Pete, question for you, how long has PreSonus been around for?
PreSonus was founded in 95 by Jim Odom in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and the software team in Hamburg is part of PreSonus since 09. So it originally started as a software startup company that I created with another co-founder, and then at some point we decided to become part of PreSonus.
Incredible. Totally incredible. So everybody, you are here for a treat. You are all of your music questions could be answered today by one of the lead developers and creators of PreSonus here. Thank you. Pete, please take it away. Give yourself an introduction here.
Thanks. And always good to see you again, PJ and Matthias.
Yeah, you too.
I'm Pete Brown at Microsoft. I work on our MIDI 2.0 stack and our upcoming Inbox ASIO driver, as well as kind of anything that has to do with supporting musicians on Windows.
And everyone, if you have the opportunity to hang out with Pete at a music festival, he's a celebrity. He works with all of the app developers in the Microsoft Windows ecosystem. All of the audio world goes through him, and he helps all of these applications developers enhance their applications and make sure they run great on Windows. It's been such a pleasure working with you, Pete.
Thanks, PJ, and with you and the awesome Snapdragon guitar as well. So I rate you equally. The guitar is just as cool as you. So there.
Everyone, go check out on Instagram. Look up, or you could go to the Snapdragon page. Definitely go to the PreSonus page and Microsoft page. Check us out and check out the Insane Skins page, and you can see the Snapdragon guitar that Pete is talking about. Or just Google Pete Brown on YouTube at NAMM, and you could check out him with the Snapdragon branded guitar. And maybe we'll have to give one of those away online. So let me talk to some people here, because we're going to get a bunch more of them, because everybody should stay tuned for Snapdragon Summit, which is going to be in a month from now on September 23rd to the 26th. And we'll have some more exciting announcements. Can't talk about anything that's happening there yet, but there will be more Snapdragon guitars, other Snapdragon brand stuff. Going to be a lot of fun. And Chris, please introduce yourself as well.
Hey, I'm Chris Lewis. I'm the tech lead for the Aperture team at Microsoft that helps companies and ISVs move over to ARM. And I'm just here in case there's any ARM porting questions that aren't related to music that someone may need help with. This is really everybody else's show.
No, well, Chris, thank you for coming here, because today it's actually all about Studio One's work. They have a DAW, and they recently recompiled so that they can run, their app runs natively on Snapdragon processors to get even, the best performance on Snapdragon, plus the best battery life, and plus some other things that maybe they could tap into the future. So I think, Matthias, actually, if you could maybe, do you mind just telling us maybe just a little bit about Studio One? And maybe just a few of maybe your favorite features that are within Studio One?
Sure. So, I mean, I've been there every step of the way. So originally it started as a hobby project, and then, with a startup company, and then PreSonus. So Studio One's been around since 09. We are now at version 7. It's a full-featured professional DAW. It has meanwhile 3 main pages, or if you include the start page, which is where you start off, it's 4. So the start page, then you have a song project and a show page. So the song page is what you're using for recording, mixing, your production. Could be music, but could be any audio content whatsoever. Then when you want to create an album, you go to the project page next, where you can compile multiple songs or multiple sessions into an album. From there, you can do a digital release, like to, I don't know, from SoundCloud to Apple Music and whatnot. So there are all kinds of mastering presets for various streaming platforms. And then the show page is if you want to perform your songs live. So maybe have some backing tracks playing through the door and add some live guitar, live vocals, and so on. So I think this is also, my favorite feature of Studio One is like this, because it goes full circle. It's, not just, recording and mixing. It's also mastering, it's also live performance. And now even more so with version 7, where we introduced the launcher, which is part of the song page, where you can launch clips, similar to other popular applications, which is just a different workflow to explore ideas compared to like the linear timeline, like the traditional digital audio workstation that is basically just an evolution of a tape recorder.
Totally incredible. And it's super visual. It's a beautiful, your app is beautiful to work in.
Thanks.
It looks amazing. And so correct me if I'm wrong. So, it's for recording, but also you're saying for live performances as well, if people want to use it for backing tracks.
Yep. Yeah. We have, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it.
No, I just wanted to mention we have a couple of bands that are using it, like also big productions that are using Studio One, especially the show page, for their backing tracks in redundant systems, obviously. But it works. It's
of course. And I know, on the page I've seen, you can scroll to the bottom to see some big time musicians who, have used it. I saw one of my personal favorites, Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Mhm.
His home studio was completely tricked out by Studio One, and put in a bunch of Studio One software and equipment. So totally awesome. So and again, thank you, Pete, for jumping in here. If anyone has any questions along the way, but I would love to jump in and talk about how we met each other, and a big new feature in Snapdragon for Snapdragon and Studio One. So I think we had first met through Pete. Pete,
Yep.
It was, celebrity at NAMM, walking around, knows everybody, introduced us, and you guys have came by the booth. Everyone needs to check out NAMM. It's an awesome show. If you haven't heard of it, it's in January in Anaheim every year. Just check out the website, and you could, all of your favorite music companies like Fender are there, have awesome booths showcasing. It's just the latest and greatest in musician technology and instruments, and you run into musicians everywhere. It's unbelievable. But Matthias was there, and Snapdragon had just launched our latest chip. We've got over 60 laptops available in the market. The Microsoft Surface laptops now have Snapdragon models like the Surface Pro 11 and the Surface Laptop 7. They're still awesome performance and great battery life. And Microsoft built a Prism emulator so that traditional x86 apps can run, but we really want some of the awesome hero apps like Studio One to recompile so that their code runs natively on Snapdragon architecture, so that they get even can just eke out the best performance. And also, great battery life. And one of our, hero features is that our Snapdragon laptops don't really throttle that much when you take them and put them on battery. And so we were showcasing a lot of these, features at Snapdragon Summit. And so Pete introduced us to Matthias. And I think shortly after that, correct me if I'm wrong, Matthias, we had sent you a Microsoft Surface Laptop 7.
Yeah.
And I think you began evaluating it and checking out to consider recompiling it. Is that correct?
Well, at that point, we've already been halfway through. So we started late last year with looking at the platform and making sure, we compile. So the build environment we are using is CMake, so it is cross-platform, easy to adjust, easy to maintain. Yeah, so it's been like a 6-month window, half of it last year, and we finished in spring. So when we met, like I said, so we were already halfway through. We had a prototype running internally, but it was nowhere near announcing it because we didn't know, is it going to be like done or brought to the finish line quickly, or is it going to take more time because we have several third-party dependencies. Not everything is our code. The majority is our code, and everything that we have in C++ is pretty straightforward. But third-party libraries where we just have the binaries and not the source code, and also where we have license agreements, then we had to get in touch with all the partners and figure all the details out. And we made it to a public beta, I would say. So if you look at Studio One, so because not all the features are in there, so there's a big piece missing. That's, for example, Dolby, because Dolby just doesn't have an SDK yet for Windows on ARM, but it's gonna come eventually. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So, so you feel like the development time was basically 6 months for and your app is, I mean, I guess it's been around, since the 90s, and so it's
not that old. So the Studio One code base is about 21 years. So I started in 2004 with
sorry.
code.
Yeah. Apologies.
It's only 21 years of code.
Only
yeah.
So wow. Okay. So brought over in 6 months. And I'm sorry, what was the environment you used to code the app in?
So for development on the Windows platform, we are primarily using Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, but the build system is, or the project definition is done in CMake, which is something that is quite popular for C++ developers because it's platform agnostic, or you can define things once, and the majority just works on many platforms. So prior to that, we had separate projects for the platforms, and it just doesn't scale. And at some point we added Linux, and that was the point when we also decided to switch to CMake, and now it's pretty straightforward to maintain.
Got it. Cool. So any developers out there who work in those platforms should feel confident, if they're interested in bringing their apps over to ARM64 to run native on Snapdragon. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Fender, that the week that you guys launched the beta for ARM, there was another app that the Fender team had launched as well.
Yeah, actually, that's the app that you're referring to is called Fender Studio. It's under the Fender brand. It's using the exact same code base like Studio One. It's full Studio One under the hood. It's just a new UI, new workflow approach, much simpler, with a focus on mobile platforms, so you can run it on a phone, on a tablet, but also on a desktop.
Whoops. I don't know that came from, but it's I loved it.
So I pulled up the store listing for Fender Studio because I was going to share the screen there for a second, but I forgot there's a video there's like a great teaser video with, I don't know who's playing in it, but it's awesome. And
That's
what
awesome.
played right away.
Yeah. So
Cool. Feel free to share the screen.
So Fender Studio is a combination of the Studio One code base plus Fender algorithms. So these are really authentic modeled Fender algorithms, like the same code that goes into the firmware of the digital amplifiers. And that's also been like a first where the teams were working together, like the core PreSonus software team and also the electronics R&D team in Scottsdale, Arizona, where Fender has a larger office. Yeah, it's like
So
first time using those algorithms on desktop and mobile. So they've only been used in firmware up to that point.
Wow, that's incredible. So you were actually developing multiple apps simultaneously, not just Studio One, but this whole new Fender Studio app at the same time across multiple operating systems, Windows on ARM, and also mobile operating systems as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Pete, for bringing this up.
When we do, when we make changes like adding a new platform like Windows on ARM, it's basically for the whole code base for all applications. So even if we do not launch everything or do not launch everything at the same time, internally, our build system just, as soon as it's ready or ready enough, then we build all the artifacts for all the platforms.
Incredible. And I think you had mentioned the guitar amplifiers and everything that's in here are similar to the ones that are offered. I believe it's in the Fender ToneMaster Pro, which is the effects processor that guitar players could buy, and it's a standalone unit. But now this is many of them some of them are also available within Fender Studio.
Well, that would be quite a bargain. It's unfortunately it's not that. So it's the Mustang line of digital amplifiers. So it's not the ToneMaster Pro level. So this is still reserved exclusively for that board.
Okay.
But it's Mustang quality.
Okay.
I mean, they're good. They sound pretty decent, and they are authentic, and they run efficiently. I mean, we were surprised as well. So without much optimization, they just ran fine.
So they're authentic recreations of these real amplifiers that are offered by Fender.
Well, they are in the digital amplifier. So Fender has digital amplifiers where modeling code is running in the firmware, and this is like the exact same code.
That's great. Beautiful. It's a beautiful app. So I think another piece to this puzzle is people who, a lot of times musicians, plug instruments into Studio One, and so they can capture, sound from their synthesizer or from their guitar. So Pete has been working on the ASIO standard, which is audio stream input output. So it's for super low latency, but high quality capture. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, this is always something that's been, it works with an audio interface. So it's a box that allows you to plug in an instrument. But this is something that has a driver for this has never been included inside of Windows before. It's always just been, okay, then, you download the third-party application from the manufacturer, which is great, and everyone will still continue to do that. But you're working on a project that will, for the first time ever, include this in Windows. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're, and thanks, PJ. In partnership with you all and Yamaha, we're working on an inbox ASIO driver for Windows. And, our goal here is to make it so that if you plug your low latency audio interface in, and PreSonus makes some, and there are many other manufacturers, that it works immediately in a low latency way with DAWs, as well as with Windows, and follows the best practices for power management and all the things that we want these drivers to do kind of from the very start. But it's really about you go get a laptop 7 and you plug in your audio interface. You don't want to have to go and know that you have to go to a manufacturer's website, download this driver, install it. Maybe you have to reboot, maybe not, and do all that work before you can use this application that you're interested in using. And so we wanted to have that to, just works when you plug it in experience. Now, since we announced that, and I'll come back to it in a second, but since we announced that, there have also been several manufacturers who have already released, because we've all been working with them in PJ. You've been instrumental in that. We've been working with them to get RME has all of their USB audio interfaces that they've ever made now have native ARM64 drivers optimized and working great on Snapdragon. Focusrite recently released drivers for every single one of their USB audio interfaces for Snapdragon. Steinberg/Yamaha had one of the first ones out that you showed at Snapdragon Summit last year, and you had all the live performances in the tent, and people were performing live like back in Hawaii on these Steinberg interfaces with, at the time it was with Cubase. There was, I think you had Cooper on guitar, right?
Carter.
And Dom on synthesizers and keys,
Dom
all
Scalise.
doing this great real-time, low latency performance out in the sun all day. Like, it was hot from what I understand inside those tents with these Snapdragon laptops, and it just like not a glitch, not a zero issues. Latency was great. People were performing live. They were doing constant performances for every press group that came through, et cetera, et cetera. So props to all these companies that have gone and released these native drivers. But what we really wanted to do with Snapdragon is just, like I said, make it so that the minute you plug it in, you don't have to go and seek out these drivers, because the drivers that the manufacturers make are awesome. But not every manufacturer has a native ARM64 driver. So if you're not one of these companies here, there hasn't been a driver for ARM64. And two, it's just, you have to know, like, I'm thinking, you get somebody who's just starting out and they've bought a kit and, they want to start, they play guitar, or they play something, they want to start recording, they're inspired. And it's just like all these steps they have to take in between, like, that inspiration and actually making music. And we wanted to cut down on that number of steps, especially on Snapdragon laptops.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Pete. It was an awesome experience at Snapdragon Summit last year, and it started the revolution. I think that the
FOMO was real. Like, companies were like, wait a minute, like, we didn't realize that you can make music on these devices. And then, like, they were like, oh, this is serious. You guys, Microsoft and Qualcomm and folks are serious about this ARM thing. Let's start looking at it. And we've had devices and pretty much almost every DAW, and all the major device manufacturers, and now a lot of the plugin manufacturers, as well as we're working with companies like Pace on the copy protection stuff and things like that. They're all coming on board to support this platform because they see the promise in it.
That's great. And I think we just wanted to get one of these into Matthias and PreSonus's hands so that they could start poking around on it. To your point about, people just want to be able to plug in and just start going. It reminded me, Matthias, can you remind the audience the price of the Fender Studio app?
$0.
There you go. It's incredible. Yeah, it's a beautiful app, and it's $0. So it's a great, just starter tool for everybody to get into. And then I think PreSonus is really the serious, it's got everything in there.
But Matthias, like, did Fender Studio use some of the work you've done for Studio One, or like, because that came up pretty quickly? Is it all net new, or?
It is, like I said, it's exactly the same code base.
Okay,
it's the same audio engine,
Incredible.
The same mixing, the same effects. I mean, they have a slightly different UI. And the Fender algorithms are new. They are not in Studio One, right. But everything else, like the data model, the tracks, the file format. I mean, it has a different file name extension, but if you look what's in the file, it's exactly the same.
But you've been able to reuse that audio engine code across there. So like all the work you've done there to port to ARM64 is accrued to both, which is fantastic. The Fender application is amazing. I'm not a guitar player. I know PJ, we always talk, I'm more keyboard than guitar.
Keyboard, yeah.
You've been all about the guitar stuff. Nobody's putting a skin on the montage back here, but maybe we can talk Yamaha into it. And so I know the Fender app was like a really big deal for you because you're looking at all these ways to get guitarists. And really, if you wanted to check the performance of something, like singers, guitarists, and if there's somebody doing actual like real-time processing of drums, those things with the really like quick attack transients and stuff, those are where you really start hearing if there's any latency in the system, if the performance is not what it's supposed to be, etc. And the stuff that you guys did at NAMM last year with or actually it was earlier this year, excuse me, with all those folks performing live on that, just showed that the system keeps up just fine, and it's ready for apps like Studio One.
You know, Pete, you had said something once that like burned into my brain forever. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was basically like, you know, audio is one of the most challenging things, I think, because there's just no room for error. Because in video, you know, things happen at a 30th of a second. But I believe you said in audio world, things happen at like 1/500th of a second,
or 1,000th of a second. Like we're always talking about milliseconds and sub milliseconds for how much time processing takes, and that's just like that's your maximum window for processing is like a couple of milliseconds. That's not the amount of time you have available to do one specific thing. So if you have a bunch of different effects that you're doing in real time, like if you think about how a guitarist would do this, they're plugged into the audio interface. There's some processing in the audio interface to get that audio into an application, right? So there's certain amount of latency there. There are buffer sizes and stuff. And then when the audio gets into the application, something like Studio One or Fender Studio has only a very small window of time to apply all of the things that it's going to do to that signal before it can play it back out through the audio interface. And there's, again, a little bit of delay there so you can hear it. And if you're playing something like in real time and you hit the strings and you hear yourself hit the strings, if there's a delay like between that and when you actually hear the music or hear the sounds coming out of it, it's very distracting. It's a lot of people who aren't musicians, if they've ever been on a conference call or did a presentation where there's an echo coming back of their voice and they hear it like a couple of seconds later, you very quickly realize you can't talk when that's happening. It just screws with your brain in a big way. So singers and guitarists and drummers and stuff, like when they do this stuff on these PCs, if they don't get that immediate feedback, that immediate processing of the sound, then they know it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's kind of like virtual reality. Like if there's any lag to the latency, the experience is ruined. It's unusable. It's the same thing when you're recording with an instrument or, you know, even your voice and audio. If there's any delay in all of the, you know, effects that you're adding to your voice that are coming back to you, it becomes unusable.
Yeah. And again, the times that we're talking about here, like in virtual reality, there is a larger window of time when you like move your head or something that it catches up, that like your visual perception is not as fast as what you hear through your ears. So like you have a little bit more wiggle room there, but you're still going to upchuck if the stuff like is moving around a bit differently. I don't know that anybody is hurling over audio stuff there, but it really screws up the performance if you're off by just a few milliseconds.
Cool. Well, hey, actually, we have an awesome question in the chat. We have some real musicians here. So the question I think to Pete, but Matthias, if you have experience on this, would love to know. Question is, what advice would you give to developers who want to port their VSTs to native ARM64? Correct me if I'm wrong. VST is a plugin that runs in the DAW that simulates a sound of an instrument, an effect. So you could put a VST on your keyboard to make it sound like an organ, or a VST on your guitar to add a distortion pedal.
Yeah. So let me start with this. I'm going to share a screen really quick here. let me start, but then I would really like Matthias to, since he's got the hands-on experience doing this kind of stuff. I'm sharing, or will as soon as it pops up here, just some guidance that I gave to developers who are porting their plugins and ASIO drivers and stuff to Snapdragon, is to consider that there are two main compilation models that you can use in on ARM64 devices. One is ARM64 Classic, which has access to everything in ARM64. It uses the ARM64 ABI. It has access to all the registers. It has, all the native layout for ARM64. And then there is something called ARM64 EC, which is emulation compatible. That doesn't mean it's emulated. It means it's emulation compatible. And you give up a few registers, and then there's also some thunking code depending upon how often you cross in between the different boundaries there. The ARM64 compatible side exists so you can mix and match your Intel/AMD x64 code with native ARM64 code in the same process, right? So this is something that's kind of unique to Windows, being able to mix and match the architectures within that process. So in that case, the Intel or AMD code would run under emulation, and the ARM64 code would not run under emulation, it would just run natively. The reason I bring this up is because the different DAWs have chosen different approaches here for how they compile and how they load plugins in their DAWs, right? So some DAWs will use, to be able to use the existing body of Intel /AMD x64 plugins that are out there, there's a massive ecosystem, the thousands and thousands of them. Some of them will never be ported to ARM64 because they're older, and people have big investments in plugins. Like my plugin bank expenditure over the years is much higher than what I've spent on DAWs or other stuff. It's like some of these plugins are $1,000 or $500 or whatever a piece. Anyway, so we want to be able to use those when they can run under emulation. So some DAWs will use an external process that's like an x64, an ARM64 EC host process, and it will be able to load all your existing plugins in there, and it communicates with the DAW. Some other DAWs have compiled their DAW itself to ARM64 EC, so they can natively load those Intel or AMD plugins directly into the DAW process. So anyway, like that's going into the weeds a little bit there, but there are these two compilation models. If you are creating a plugin, this has some impact to you because you don't know what DAWs somebody might use. Like I might use Studio One, which does ARM64 native, right? Or ARM64 Classic, I should say. And then I might use say like Cubase, which does ARM64 EC on the same PC. So if I use both of those there, the plugins, I want them to be able to work with both of them. So, but a plugin loads from a DLL in a known directory, and you need to be able to pull the right architecture for for your application from that DLL in that directory. So what we offer is something called ARM64X, just because we have to add another thing on top of this, right? We have something called ARM64X, and it's conceptually the fat binary. So ARM64X can be a single DLL that has a branch of ARM64 EC code and a branch of ARM64 Classic code in it. And depending upon the architecture of the process that's loading that DLL, that decides which side the code gets pulled from. And there are things like resources get shared, and like there's some optimizations to make it so that the library doesn't get too fat. But ARM64X is how we deliver all of our in-process DLLs on ARM64 devices. So like our WinRT libraries, the stuff that we do for MIDI 2.0, that's all ARM64X. That way we can support all the different architectures of the DAWs that are native on ARM64, as well as the ones running under emulation. So what we suggest is if you're creating a library that is going to be loaded in process in one of these DAWs, whether it's an ASIO driver or a VST or any other type of library, we recommend that you compile it to ARM64X, which gives you the best of both worlds there and makes it so that you'll have the maximum reach. You'll get all the apps that are running on your emulation. You'll get all the apps that are using classic ARM64, as well as all the apps that are compiled using ARM64 EC.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Totally. This is also what we would recommend, and this is also what we are working on. So far, there's only Fender Studio and Studio One public for Windows on ARM, but we are working on porting the PreSonus hub. It's currently in beta testing internally, and the plugins. So this is like, us creating plugins running in other hosts. They are also using ARM64X. Yeah.
Matthias, did you have any other tips for folks creating plugins for ARM64 here, or compiling to ARM64? Any tricks you've learned along the way?
I don't know. I would just say, do it. Go ahead, just do it. It's not hard. It doesn't hurt. I mean, just it depends on the environment, I guess. So there's the VST SDK, which Steinberg provides, and there's quite a lot in it, I assume. If you start from scratch, that's a good starting point. There are other solutions as well, other frameworks that I don't want to advertise here, but there's a lot out there for audio developers.
I'll throw one out. So I know the Juice folks have been working on ARM64 as well as for MIDI 2.0 support on both of those. So and that's one of the popular frameworks. So we're not advertising them, but need to throw a little bit of love their way since they've been doing the ARM64 work as well. But they're not the only one. There are other cross-platform environments that you can build plugins with as well.
Yeah, I totally understand when plugin developers are hesitant. I mean, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation, but I think the devices are just so exciting, and if you have one, if you start using a Snapdragon-based laptop, you do not want to go back. It's just so cool. It's so quiet and efficient. Yeah.
I got my daughter. So today was her first day of college classes. She's 16. Thank you. She's not in college, but it's like we've homeschooled our kids forever. And once you get to the level of stuff that I no longer remember and my wife no longer remembers, we're like, go take college classes, and our county does that. So anyway, so she went off for her first day of that. She went with a Surface Laptop 7. We got her for school there, and I admit the fact that it comes in that beautiful blue color did play into this, because that's absolutely gorgeous. But she was like, she goes, I don't care what you get me as long as it doesn't come with a built-in hair dryer like my brother's laptop, right? So
totally,
because he's got one with the fan that's like blood. Like if you sit on the wrong side of him in class, it's a gamer PC, right? So if you sit on him on the wrong side of him in class, you can warm your drink, blow dry your hair, and do whatever you want, right?
Sounds like it's about to take off.
Yeah. And so she was super happy with that there. And Matthias, you've seen me walking around when I'm at the NAMM show. What I carry around with me all the time is a Snapdragon PC, because it lasts the whole show without me ever having to plug it in. And I know for some people this is like, well, duh, it's a laptop, it should do that. But no, if you come from the PC world, that has not been the standard for, like, we've had the hot bag on the airplane. Like I've had that happen. That's not fun. Or, the slow bleeding of laptop, battery over time after you turn it off. Like the Snapdragon laptops that I carry around with me at these shows, like I said, at the NAMM show, I did several presentations, a bunch of demos, never had to plug the thing in. It didn't lose battery life. It wasn't blowing hot air at anybody. I mean, those for me are a big deal. And if you want to try to record your voice or a guitar or something like that, like that's super important. You don't have to worry about dragging a power adapter with you and everything else.
Totally. I was going to say for musicians, super important for, it's not making noise. And especially, I think Microsoft just released the new Microsoft Surface Pro 12, and it's actually fanless. Yep. So, it's nothing that's making noise inside of it at all. So that's amazing. Sorry, go for it.
I'll say it's honestly, it's exciting to be at a point in time when, like, my main PC is still a big desktop PC, but it is on the other side of a wall. And I have the cables fed through the wall, so I don't have to worry about how loud the fans are in there, because it's got a huge GPU and 192 gigs of memory in it. So it's like runs very hot for what's in there and has plenty of fans. I'm looking forward to the days when I don't have to think about how much noise does the computer make. I just want to be able to use it and have a quiet environment to use it in.
It's amazing. I appreciate you guys saying that. We are the laptops, the Snapdragon laptops have been incredible. And everyone should tune in on September 23rd, 24th, and 26th. We'll have some even more exciting Snapdragon news. Maybe before we go, I feel like no one can leave any meetings these days without talking about AI. But I think in the music world, there's truly exciting features that are powered by neural networks. Matthias, correct me if I'm wrong, but your stem separation feature is powered by neural networks. Do you want to just tell the audience what that feature is and what it does? I think it's like, a breakthrough.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is also exciting that it's now possible at this time. It's been like the holy grail for a long time to
100%,
unmix audio. So you have like a finished production. You have multiple layers of sound. You have multiple instruments. You have drums. You have guitar. You have vocals and so on. And now with these AI-based algorithms, we are able to separate that and separate it in quite a decent quality into 4 or more stems depending on the algorithm. So currently in Studio One it's 4. Yeah, and this can be used for rehearsal, for example, or for remixes, and so there are just many use cases for that.
Totally. So previously, if like a DJ or someone wanted to create like a sample of of a vocal in a song, or just like an instrument, or if a guitar player wanted to learn an instrument, they would have to take a song, load it into Studio One, futz around with the frequencies and the treble and the bass and but now you have this AI called the stem separation that could unmix the music, and you could select certain instruments and they could just hear it for themselves. Is that accurate?
Yep.
That's awesome. Very cool. And so very cool. And so I'm sure there's we're at the sort of, in a weird way, we're at the infancy of neural networks. I mean, it seems like things are just taking off every other day. So be exciting to see where it goes.
Yeah, and especially with hardware acceleration. So it's also important that the chip supports that there is a neural processing unit. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be fun if everything would be processed on a CPU. It would just be not efficient and fast enough.
Totally. And that's why Microsoft has created a whole brand around the NPU, that like one inside of Snapdragon called Copilot Plus PC. And there are exclusive features in Windows that are only available if you have an NPU, like real-time translation, in Windows Studio Effects, which enhances the image quality of your picture, noise suppression for your voice, as well as eye contact. But there's I believe third part, ways for app developers to tap into the NPU as well, through Windows ML is an option that's out there. And so there's a lot of tools. And Pete, feel free to add if there's
I'm getting pretty excited about where this is headed. And it's just like you're saying, everything has to be about AI these days. But once we climb over the hype curve on this, it's just going to become kind of the natural background operation that happens in operating systems and in applications and stuff, where developers are calling an API. They don't know that API is using a model behind it to perform what it's doing. It's just accomplishing what it needs to do because there's an NPU present and it can do it in basically real time. So, and in musicians, especially, and visual artists, actually, when they think of AI, they tend to think of the generative AI stuff, which has kind of in the creative community, doesn't have the best reputation because of how it kind of started and where it's gone. but it's all these other tasks like stem separation and de-reverb and like all these other effects that you can apply to your audio to clean it up, and background noise removal, and video enhancement and stuff, like all these other little quality of life things that are I think somebody once said something, I'm going to badly paraphrase it. I don't want AI to be creative for me. I want it to like take out the trash and do the dishes, right? Like, I want it to like do all the things I don't want to do, so I have more time to be creative. And having it do things like stem separation and all this other stuff, I think helps get us there. So I'm really excited. Like you said, it's just starting out here in the music industry.
Totally. And I think like in the music industry, as you're saying, like the nature, of AI that it can run really fast and real time is like super important for musicians, and being able to enhance your audio in real time and unmix things in real time it's amazing. And for the developers out there, you could also go to aihub.qualcomm.com. We've got like over 100 neural networks that are available for free that are quantized for Snapdragon, and you're welcome to use it. And you can even bring your own model, and it will help you deploy it on Snapdragon within Windows. So, with that, if there's no more questions from the audience, I want to then thank you guys for showing up here today and chatting with the Snapdragon developer crowd on sharing the tools and resources. But Matthias, we can't thank you enough for checking out Snapdragon and bringing over Studio One, creating Fender Studio, and thank you for letting everybody know that the PreSonus hub is exploring Windows on ARM as well to run native on Snapdragon.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Matthias, for supporting musicians on Windows, especially on the new devices, so quickly. I really appreciate that.
Well, we were not the first ones, but we've been closely watching, and as soon as it became a real thing, was that collaboration between Qualcomm and Microsoft. Yeah, it totally made sense for us to invest. I mean, it's a very appealing and exciting future platform. So, it's here. It's real already. So it's real enough to focus on it and invest in it, I think.
Awesome. Cool. So everybody go check out PreSonus right now. Just go to PreSonus.com and you could download the latest beta. You could also go to the Windows Store, download Fender Studio completely free. And check out all of these links. You can read up more about how to write for Windows on ARM, and check out Pete's upcoming more information about the upcoming ASIO driver. That's going to be awesome for musicians, streamers. It's going to be great. And Chris, thank you for coming and being on standby for any in the weeds ARM development questions. And Pete, is there anything else you want people to check out about Windows? And I see you.
All right, yeah. So we've got 10 minutes. I'll fill the rest with MIDI if you want, but no, like I posted a link in the YouTube chat for aka.ms/MIDI. I'll very quickly say our new inbox MIDI stack is in the process of going into the retail builds right now. We're doing a slow roll of it to make sure that we don't break anything. So it'll slowly throughout the rest of the fall get rolled out to all these devices. And PJ, like we announced it at Snapdragon Summit last year, we're happy to finally have it in these devices, and of course has full support for ARM64.
Awesome. So Pete's that one of the heads of the MIDI Association. MIDI, a standard that was created decades ago, has been updated to MIDI version 2. Can you run through? Correct me if I'm wrong. MIDI is the digital way that many digital interfaces can communicate with computers, so they can send information to the computer about what key you're tapping.
Sure.
What's new in MIDI 2?
So quickly, there are two things that are happening in Windows. So we have full support for MIDI 2.0, which adds much higher resolution controllers, so that there's no more stair stepping. You're not limited to 127 values when you turn knobs and stuff, and you don't have to do special types of messages that break up the 14-bit value across two different values and whatnot. So it has native support for those things. It has native support for exact pitch for instruments. So if you want to have different tunings, or you want to do something more than just do a single note value, you can now have exact pitch as part of your note messages. It has support for more dynamic controls. So all the things that were first done with MIDI polyphonic expression, MPE for Rolly, and I have other devices here that are like that. That has that type of stuff built in. And then it's bidirectional.
So it understands how you're saying expression. It understands how hard you're hitting the key, basically.
More than that, like it's more vectors of control on keys. So some keys have velocity, which is how hard you hit it. Pressure or aftertouch, which is how much you push on it kind of after you've already hit it the first time. But then there are also dynamics, like you can wiggle the key, or you could push forward on the key, or do other things like that. Think of the old the way Vangelis always played on the CS80 and stuff like that, where he's always wiggling his fingers on it. Like, so having built-in ways to capture that information and have it as part of it is a big deal. And that also applies to orchestral articulation, being able to specify everything about the way you all right, I am not a trumpet player or a horn player or anything like that, but what's it, embouchure or embouchure? I forget.
Embouchure.
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 Embouchure. Okay, so being able to capture different aspects of that for the instruments. Thank you so much. Or how you bow something on a violin, like where you are on the string, and like the types of action you're taking, like, so it can capture all of those things as well. So in addition to all that, there's like discovery support, so that your PC can know what's available on the device and what its capabilities are and everything. And so there's that bidirectional communication. And then in addition to all that, for everything that is MIDI 1.0 today, we've updated the stack. So it now supports things like customization of all the port names, built-in metadata. So every MIDI port that you have, or MIDI endpoint that you have, can have a custom image with it. Here, let me share a screen really quickly.
Yeah. No. No rush.
So this is the new MIDI settings app. It's still in development here, but it's just about done. The new MIDI settings app that comes along with this. And so you can have all of the different images associated with your devices if you want to. You can customize everything about them. So I can say, I can rename all the different ports and stuff here for these devices. I can create loopback endpoints as part of the stack. These are something that are brand new to this. I have support in here for network MIDI 2.0, so the new standard. So being able to discover these devices on the network and also be a network host. It comes with a bunch of command line tools as well to be able to manage the MIDI system, as well as let me see here real quick, get information about the different devices that you have available. So is it still sharing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird, it didn't share this command prompt for some reason.
Pete, is this a settings menu in Windows that we're looking at?
So this is there's a separate settings app that gets installed as part of the out of box or the addition for MIDI 2.0 and Windows MIDI services here. And so we make that super easy for folks to get access to. Here we go. Oh, weird. I think I crashed my graphics card when I shared that screen. But anyway, bunch of other stuff. If they go to aka.ms/MIDI. Sorry. The biggest thing everybody always asked us for, multiple applications can have the same MIDI ports open at the same time. So that all works now. It's all multi-client, etc.
Very cool.
But I know, Matthias, Studio One, I know, has ways of capturing some metadata about the ports, and you can have descriptions and stuff. In the future, if you want, like, Studio One can pull directly from the centralized repository we have, where a person has a custom name, a description, an image, a flag to indicate if it supports MPE, a flag that says what its maximum recommended CC interval is, and a couple of other things like that that are all customizable by users that an app like Studio One can take advantage of.
Is it then installed with the OS, or is it something that we would pull from the web?
So the service is installed with the OS, so the basic service, and that gives you backwards compatibility with all the existing WinMM and WinRT MIDI 1.0 APIs today. And then there is an out-of-box SDK runtime, and we have a whole bootstrapper approach to that, so that applications can prompt if it's not available, and users can download it. And that's where they get the MIDI 2.0 support, as well as the apps like the settings application, the console application, PowerShell commandlets for automating MIDI 2.0, and a bunch of other stuff that's coming on.
Sounds quite exciting. I mean, there's so much. And Pete, I wanted to thank you as, the person at Microsoft, making that happen for the music community and the music technology community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Incredible, Pete. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Pete, is there a MIDI 2.0 instrument that you recommend people check out?
I have two of them standing up behind me. So there's a Montage. So the Montage M supports MIDI 2.0. The Roland A88 Mark II supports MIDI 2.0, and they both support the new high resolution messages. And I have a Waldorf Iridium here next to me, which is one of my favorites, and it's running the MIDI 2.0 firmware they have, so it also does full support for high resolution messages and data as well. So those are three big ones that I would recommend out there. But honestly, like most of the industry is waiting for Microsoft to kind of get our stuff together and get this out into the public, and then they can start releasing more of their instruments.
All right, cool. Well, it's coming. Thank you for giving us a peek at that, at all the settings menu. That's awesome. Well, everybody, guys, thank you so much again for showing up today, and being there and supporting Snapdragon, and giving the whole audience a peek into development tools, and a peek into the future also. So I'm sure we'll have some more fun stuff to announce together. Thank you guys again. And thank you everybody in the audience for tuning in and asking some great questions, especially about VSTs. We got some musicians out there. Cool. Yeah. So with that, I will summon the Snapdragon administrators who are controlling the video stream. And I guess they'll turn us off. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. I think